Chapter 778. The Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans could only look on blankly as Murong Qingqing flew toward Yiqin. At this moment, they didn't dare to attack, because whether it was the enemy or the 6 half-step kings leading them, they would all be within their range of attack. She's coming. Activate the 6-way array. As long as we have a bit more time, we'll be able to kill this kid. White Nightmare and the rest were paying attention to Murong Qingqing. Seeing that the 500 clansmen couldn't stop her, their complexions changed. Each of them swallowed a Zhenyuan replenishing pellet and activated the 6-way cloud polation with all their strength. The black chi of the 6-way cloud polation roiled, and the 6 thin chains connected to it were activated. A second membrane appeared around the 6, putting them in between the 2 layers. Seeing this, Murong Qingqing's right hand turned into a blade and chopped down. The membrane around the 6 crazily distorted, causing their complexions to turn pale. It can't be broken. Murong Qingqing's brows creased. Midway, her hands rapidly formed seals. Due to her fast speed, it seemed as if her hands were shrouded in an illusory sphere. At the same time, boundless dark power rippled out from her body. Dark Devour. After forming seals, Murong Qingqing pushed her hands forward. Rumble. On the outer wall of the membrane, a dark energy ball that was constantly collapsing and rotating appeared. This dark energy ball was like a black hole, emitting an astonishing suction force that was distorting the membrane around the 6 of them. Under this terrifying suction force, the membrane became unstable, expanding and contracting at times, as if it could collapse at any time. Don't even think about it. The 6 roared and poured their Zhenyuan into the 6-way cloud polation like water, stabilizing the membrane. Murong Qingqing coldly snorted and formed seals again, condensing a second dark energy sphere. Under the pincer attack of 2 dark energy spheres, the membrane finally couldn't endure and loudly collapsed. With the outer array broken, the 6 spurted blood, their Zhenyuan fluctuating. Break. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Murong Qingqing struck toward Duo Long, who was the closest to her. As long as one of the 6 was injured or became uncoordinated, the 6-way cloud polation would collapse. Damn it! As a last resort, Duo Long couldn't afford to attack Yiqin anymore. He moved his body horizontally, avoiding Murong Qingqing's incoming palm energy. As his body moved, a flaw appeared in the 6-direction formation, and a gap appeared. With a swoosh, a sword light flashed, and Yiqin rushed out of the gap. Fortunately, you broke through in time. Yiqin was in a sorry state. There were many tears on his clothes, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Fortunately, this was only his appearance. With the undying body, these injuries were nothing to Yiqin. Of course, if Murong Qingqing had come a little later, the situation would have been even worse. Why didn't you interrupt me? Seeing the 500 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans and 6 half-step kings, Murong Qingqing sucked in a breath of cold air. She was somewhat blaming him. Facing so many enemies, Yiqin should have interrupted her breakthrough and left together instead of risking his life to buy time for her. It's fine. You still don't believe me? Moreover, it's not like I don't have a trump card. I just can't use it casually. Yiqin was talking about the Sky Scorpio sword. If I had broken through a little later, even if you had the Sky Scorpio sword, you might not have been safe. Murong Qingqing sized up the 6 half-step kings, then turned her head to glance at the 500 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans. She was speechless. This kind of lineup was not a joke. Let's go out first. I should be able to open a gap in this enchantment. Murong Qingqing's breakthrough allowed Yiqin to heave a sigh of relief. Stalling for time was correct. Things were progressing in a good direction, and the only thing he had to face now was the enchantment. Want to leave? It won't be that easy. White Nightmare and the other 5 were attracted by Murong Qingqing's temperament. Compared to Murong Qingqing, even the perfect demonic human bloodline of Chaotic Demon Ocean Clan was far inferior to Murong Qingqing. She seemed to be the most perfect without a single flaw. Since they had encountered such a perfect demonic human bloodline, they had no reason to let her go. Therefore they had to capture her. Miss, you and I are both part of the demonic human clan, and you have the perfect demonic human bloodline. As long as you come back with us, I can guarantee that our demonic human clan will worship you as the saintess. This is much better than wandering the world with him. I believe you will make the right choice. Duo Long said patiently. Murong Qingqing said, I have my own clan. I don't need to join the chaotic demon ocean clan. Hehe, if I'm not wrong, you should be from True Spirit Continent's demonic human clan. They're too weak, and they're harming the dignity of my demonic human clan. Moreover, it's not just you. In the future, True Spirit Continent's demonic human clan will also join my chaotic demon ocean. Duo Long revealed a faint smile. Then we'll talk about it later. As she spoke, Murong Qingqing silently held Yi Chen's palm, secretly accumulating demonic power. Yi Chen's heart shook as he understood Murong Qingqing's plan. I'm afraid it won't be good in the future. Why don't you come to my clan as guests? As long as the two returned to their territory, they would have the final say. Let's go. Murong Qingqing spoke halfway when the wings on her back fiercely flapped. A black halo emitted from her body as she brought Yi Chen toward the enchantment at the edge of the island. Her speed was so fast that only a black light could be seen. It was no different from teleportation. Damn it. Stop her. The six had long since been on guard against Murong Qingqing and Yi Chen's escape. The moment the two disappeared, they brandished their chains and lashed at the two. The six-way cloud polation was, after all, a pseudo-supreme grade artifact. Once activated, its speed was inconceivably fast. Unfortunately, Murong Qingqing's speed was not much slower than the six-way cloud polation. Adding on the fact that she was a step ahead, there was still a certain distance between them. No matter how much the six-way cloud polation urged, it could only gradually close the distance. The island was not small, but it was not big either. Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing soon arrived before the enchantment, with the six-way cloud polation still chasing after them. Void-shattering finger. Yi Chen urged the space profound and stabbed at the enchantment in front of him. The enchantment was infused with the power of space, and was hard to see with the naked eye. However, under the attack of the void-shattering finger, it instantly distorted and bulged outwards. A spiraling passage appeared before the two. The walls of the passage looked like glass shards, a sign of the solidification of space power. Let's go. With no time to lose, the two rushed toward the spiraling passage. How is this possible? He actually broke the enchantment. The six turned pale with fright. The hidden fog enchantment was a rare enchantment of demonic humans. Although they knew that Yi Chen knew the space profound, with his cultivation base and realm, it would be hard for him to break it. However, the scene before them clearly told them that Yi Chen had the ability to break the enchantment. It was truly beyond their expectations. Yi Chen's ability to break the enchantment was naturally not purely relying on the space profound. He also had the soul eye, which granted him the ability to instantly see through the imperfections of the enchantment. After all, not everyone outside was proficient in using the enchantment. Relying on this ability, he dared to say that he had a certain amount of confidence in breaking the enchantment. And now, he had succeeded. Without the sixth command, the 500 Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans had already started attacking the moment Murong Qingqing and Yi Chen escaped. Therefore, the instant the two entered the passage, hundreds of attacks rained down on them. Shwa. Unfortunately, the two were a step faster and entered the spiraling passage first. Bang, bang, bang. The attacks landed on the enchantment barrier and the spiraling passage, producing a series of loud explosions. The passage rapidly collapsed and chased after Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing. Open the enchantment, quickly. Duo Long transmitted his voice to the demonic humans outside through a special method. Although the Sea of Soul Realm demonic humans outside didn't know what was happening inside, they could feel the enchantment shaking. Someone had forcefully broken the enchantment and was about to come out. Therefore, with Duo Long's command, they immediately stopped operating the enchantment and dispersed their Zhenyuan. Layers of black mist scattered, and a gale blew in from the ocean outside the island. The entire island was suddenly exposed to the heaven and earth, looking extremely mysterious. The enchantment disappeared. Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing felt the pressure lighten. Looking back, the island returned to its original appearance, without any barrier. Forget about it. Let's leave this place first. Without the enchantment, Murong Qingqing's speed sharply increased once again. With a flap of the black wings on her back, she brought Yi Chen away like a black ray of light. After traveling for several dozen li, Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing suddenly felt a frightening crisis approaching. Looking back, the two's expressions instantly changed. In his line of sight, a gigantic black chain that was several meters thick and immeasurably long rushed over. Wherever it went, the seawater was plowed open, the clouds in the sky were shattered, and some small islands suddenly collapsed, turning into dust. The might of this chain was terrifying to the point of being a complete mess. And the source of the chain was in White Nightmare's hands. Unknowingly, the six-way cloud pollution had reassembled into a single chain. Holding the six-way cloud pollution chain in its other form, White Nightmare circulated his Zhenyuan with all his might and lashed out with the chain. As the chain lashed out, it automatically enlarged and lengthened, resulting in the scene just now. This is the true power of the pseudo-extreme grade artifact, the six-way cloud polishing rope. Its previous form could be used in conjunction with arrays, but its might was spread out. Its offensive power was only several times that of a half-step extreme-grade artifact, not reaching the standard of a pseudo-extreme-grade artifact. Only then did Yi Chen understand how frightening the six-way cloud pollution chain was, and how frightening a pseudo-extreme-grade artifact was. The bronze armor and six-way cloud pollution chain were of similar grade, but his cultivation base was only at peak late sea of Soul Realm. Being able to resist the six-way cloud pollution chain made him feel somewhat strange. Rumble. The six-way cloud pollution chain's might was unparalleled as it swept toward the two with unstoppable momentum. Waning Moon. Demonic Finger. Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing turned around and used their strongest moves, attacking the chain. Chapter 779. The black crescent-shaped sword power contained the profoundness of metal and water. It was sharp and tenacious at the same time, and had great potential. When the sword was swung out, it seemed like the void was about to be cut open. Before it collided with the chains, the sharp sword power had already counterattacked. The black finger energy was Murong Qingqing's innate skill, Demonic Finger. Using Murong Qingqing's perfect half-step Demonic King strength, its might was 10 times greater than before. The finger shot out, dragging a heart-palpitating black luster behind it, as if it was a resplendent black diamond. The crescent-shaped sword energy and the black finger energy collided with the chain, creating a shockwave that swept out in all directions. The island below exploded with a bang, and the surrounding 100 li of seawater caved in by several thousand meters. A huge black hole also appeared in the sky. This was the sign of stunning sky being torn apart by the shockwave. The might of the exchange between the two sides had already faintly surpassed the peak confrontation of two strongest half-step kings. The shockwave not only destroyed everything in the vicinity, but also sent Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing flying with blood flowing from the corners of their mouths. White Nightmare also spurted out blood. Yi Chen's Waning Moon and Murong Qingqing's Demonic Finger were enough to deal with one of them, but two of them were beyond his power. Moreover, the six-way cloud-scraping rope was not an ordinary pseudo-supreme-grade artifact, and its Zhenyuan requirement was enormous. Thus, White Nightmare's Zhenyuan, which wasn't much to begin with, made him incomparably weak. His injuries seemed even more severe than those of Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing. You didn't stop them? Beside him, He Lin's face was gloomy. Murong Qingqing's speed was astonishing, and the distance between them was close to 100 li. Even if they chased, they wouldn't be able to catch up. White Nightmare rigidly stared at the two in the distance and said, worthy of being a perfect half-step demonic human king. As soon as she entered this realm, her strength is already close to its strongest half-step king. Given some time, it won't be hard for her to become a strongest half-step king. On the side, Duo Long smiled bitterly and said, there's also that kid. His cultivation base is not high, but the profound sense martial skill he comprehended is incomparably profound, allowing him to display 10 times his strength. Fortunately, he hasn't become a half-step king. Otherwise, the ones running away wouldn't be them, but us. Although we didn't catch them, it's not like we didn't gain anything. Since we found the whereabouts of perfect half-step demonic human kings, the patriarchs will reward us with some Zhenyuan crystals and supreme-grade spirit stones. It's better than returning empty-handed. The blue-skinned humanoid comforted himself. After flying for tens of thousands of miles in a single breath, Murong Qingqing and Yichen finally slowed down a little, maintaining their normal speed. A pseudo-supreme-grade artifact really can't be underestimated. That demonic human strength was lower than ours, but he could display a might surpassing ours. Trivial injuries were nothing to the two. Yi Chen had the undying body and instantly recovered. On the other hand, Murong Qingqing had a perfect demonic human bloodline, and her fourth-step demonic body was no small matter. Although her recovery speed was inferior to Yi Chen's, she had long since recovered. At this moment, Yi Chen sighed. Murong Qingqing said, "This chain should be a peak existence among pseudo-supreme-grade artifacts." Pseudo-supreme-grade artifacts were usually replicas of supreme-grade artifacts, and their might could hardly reach even half of an extreme-grade artifact's might. Pseudo-supreme-grade artifacts were inferior to pseudo-supreme-grade artifacts, but it was not to say that pseudo-supreme-grade artifacts were necessarily inferior to pseudo-supreme-grade artifacts. Some extremely powerful pseudo-supreme-grade artifacts were not inferior to pseudo-supreme-grade artifacts at all. However, this six-way cloud pollution chain's might was simply too powerful, and it had many transformations. Even with the two of them joining hands, they could only slightly suppress it and suffered some minor injuries. If it were the other two, they would have been smashed into meat paste by the chain. The demonic humans are the rulers of chaotic demonic ocean, and their hands and eyes are everywhere. It seems like we can't stay here any longer. We have to leave as soon as possible. They had hidden themselves well enough, and were more than 1,000,000 li away from the scene of the incident. But they had still been discovered. It was easy to see how terrifying the demonic humans' control over chaotic demonic ocean was. It would be very difficult to escape their pursuit. The two no longer hesitated, choosing a direction and flying at a normal speed. After the two escaped, White Nightmare's group of 6 didn't linger on the island any longer. They immediately set off, returning to the demonic humans' headquarters. They wanted to report the discovery of the perfect demonic human bloodline and let the higher-ups make a decision. On the way back, the black-robed old man of the demonic human clan was also hurrying. His figure flashed through the void, and his speed was unimaginable. A moment ago, he was still 100,000 li away, but the next moment, he was right in front of them. With the appearance of the black chi, the old man stopped as usual and began to investigate. The old man closed his eyes, and an incorporeal soul power spread out in all directions, covering a radius of several tens of thousands li. Seeing that there was nothing strange within several tens of thousands li, the old man formed a seal with both hands and let out a low roar. The evenly spread out soul power spread out, and the area it covered expanded by several times, reaching a radius of 200,000 li. The old man opened his eyes, and a strange expression appeared on his face. The black chi dissipated, and the old man disappeared. White Nightmare's group of 6 quickly led the 600 clansmen. Suddenly, a black chi appeared in the sky before them, and a black-robed old man walked out. "Ancestor!" White Nightmare and the rest were shocked, and one after another, they bowed in respect. The 500 clansmen behind them directly knelt in the void, not daring to raise their heads. The black-robed old man was none other than one of the demonic human kings of the demonic human clan. Demonic human kings were extremely revered existences no matter where they were. In the demonic human clan, they were called Ancestor. This black-robed old man was extremely old, at least several hundred years old. Thus, he was worthy of being called Ancestor. "All of you rise." The black-robed old man said expressionlessly. "Yes." White Nightmare and the 500 clansmen rose one after another. "From your appearance, you seem to have fought with someone?" The black-robed old man asked. The fat demonic human duo Long said, "Ancestor, we've already found the culprit, but we were useless. He escaped again." The 6 of you together with the 6-way cloud polishing rope and 600 clansmen still couldn't catch him. Could he be a strongest half-step king? The black-robed old man's face sank. Beside him, Black Scales explained, Ancestor, he's not a strongest half-step king, but he has grasped an extremely profound space profound, able to distort the 6-way cloud polishing rope's attack trajectory. Moreover, his strength is also close to its strongest half-step king. His sword arts are unpredictable and hard to deal with. Oh, grasping space profound. This is not surprising. Space profound is one of the strongest profounds, and has many wondrous uses. It can't be calculated with common sense. It's understandable that you couldn't catch him. But from your expressions, I'm afraid that's not the main reason. The black-robed old man observed their expressions and asked back. Ancestor is wise. Duo Long cupped his hands and said, he was able to escape because he had a companion, and that companion's identity is no small matter. He has perfect demonic human bloodline and has already advanced to half-step king realm, possessing innate speed abilities. Perfect demonic human bloodline? Speak quickly. The black-robed old man's complexion suddenly changed, no longer maintaining his calm demeanor. Duo Long didn't dare to keep the old man in suspense and said, according to our conjecture, she should be from True Spirit Continent. When we talked to her, she didn't deny it either. I'm thinking that our chaotic demonic ocean lineage should migrate people from True Spirit Continent to strengthen our clan. The black-robed old man glared at Duo Long. Don't ask about matters that don't concern you. Duo Long was startled and immediately lowered his head. True Spirit Continent is not a good place. There are as many kings as there are clouds in the sky, far more than any other place. If our chaotic demonic ocean lineage wants to subdue the True Spirit Continent's demonic human clan, we have to think long and hard. We can't be too hasty, lest we bring disaster upon ourselves. Although the chaotic demon ocean's demonic human clan seemed to be much more powerful than any power on True Spirit Continent, True Spirit Continent was not as simple as it looked. True Spirit Continent was known as the Land of 100 Kings, and the number of life and death kings had never been less than 100. And this was only the human side. Adding the demonic beasts and other races, there were even more life and death kings. If one recklessly charged in, even the chaotic demon ocean's demonic human clan would not be able to escape unscathed. Otherwise, they would have long since forced the entire True Spirit Continent to migrate. All right, you go back and report this matter. I'll chase after them. The black-robed old man attached great importance to this matter. He wished he could immediately chase after that perfect demonic human bloodline. Unfortunately, 2 days had already passed, and the other party had already fled several million li away. With his ability, he couldn't find them in a short time. Duo Long, White Nightmare, and the other 5 immediately left with 600 clansmen. Perfect demonic human bloodline, hee. The black-robed old man coldly smiled and his body turned into black chi, disappearing like a bubble. Chaotic demonic ocean occupied several million li. 5 days later, Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing left chaotic demonic ocean and arrived at the ocean outside. The two didn't continue on their way, but instead found a secluded island as a temporary resting place. Because Murong Qingqing had just entered the half-step king realm, she didn't have the time to consolidate her cultivation base and familiarize herself with her abilities. She could use this opportunity to consolidate her foundation. Moreover, with demonic power crystals, she could continue to strengthen her Zhen Yuan after consolidating her cultivation base. As for Yi Chen, although he had no hope of entering the half-step king realm for the time being, his Space Profound had already reached 40% completion, and his Space Profound sword art had also taken shape. As long as he had the time, creating a Space Profound sword art wouldn't be too difficult. Once the Space Profound was formed, Yi Chen's battle strength would naturally soar, and he would be able to contend against strongest half-step kings. Moreover, the Space Profound had many uses, and Yi Chen only knew a few of them. But just this little bit was enough to benefit him immensely, allowing him to contend against 6 half-step demonic human kings. If not for the Space Profound, he would have been defeated long ago. Time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, a week had passed. Break! In a mountain range in the center of the island, Yichen held the Thunder Disaster Sword in his hand and waved it out. The mountain in front of him twisted instantly before shattering like a mirror. Space Profound is indeed formidable. This sword art of mine can't be considered complete, but its might is already not inferior to Waning Moon. Moreover, it's even more difficult to guard against. As long as one is enveloped by the sword aura, it'll be like a mirror, hard to dodge. If one's strength is slightly weaker, they'll be shattered into millions of pieces. Yichen himself was astonished by the sword art's destructive power. What a powerful human! It's better to retreat. There were many oceanic beasts in the deep ocean. The sudden appearance of two humans on the island had already attracted the attention of many powerful oceanic beasts. The oceanic beast that had retreated a moment ago was a half-step demonic beast king not inferior to a human half-step king. Seeing Yichen's sword art so powerful, how could it dare to have any devious thoughts? It immediately retreated. Chapter 780. Yichen smiled faintly and didn't mind it too much. Although the opponent's concealment skill was very high, being able to merge with the seawater, it still couldn't escape his soul power's detection. The reason why he didn't make things difficult for him was because he was in the deep sea, the territory of the sea beasts. It was best not to cause any trouble. This sword move has already reached 60 to 70% completion. I can give it a name now. Thinking back to the scene just now, Yichen mumbled to himself, let's call it Bewitching Mirror Shattering. When the sword was waved out, the mountain seemed to be reflected in a mirror and then shattered, giving people a very illusory feeling. Therefore, the first two words were very suitable, as it was both poetic and dreamy. The second two words, shattering, brought people back to the cruel atmosphere. No matter how beautiful the bewitching mirror was, it would still shatter one day. Swords were originally used for killing, and sword moves were also created for killing. Bewitching Mirror Shattering. Bewitching Mirror Shattering. Yichen repeated it twice and suddenly smiled. The Space Profound has many wondrous uses. This move is just one of the uses of the Space Profound. Next, I will create the second and third moves, and the Space Profound sword art will also become one of my strongest sword arts. The theory of Bewitching Mirror Shattering was not hard. It was to spread out the space power under the urging of the sword chi. Once the space power locked onto the target, it would suddenly condense and freeze the opponent. Then, under the effect of the sword chi, it would shatter along with the opponent. The theory was not hard, but the execution was not so simple. First, the Space Profound had to be very profound, and then, it had to be closely integrated with the sword art. Otherwise, the opponent would be able to find an opening and escape, and the move would be broken. Another 2 weeks passed, and Yichen's mastery of Bewitching Mirror Shattering was getting better and better. It had also reached 70% completion from 60 to 70%. He could feel that as this move was perfected, his recently stagnant Space Profound was steadily improving. With the improvements of the Space Profound, his mastery of Bewitching Mirror Shattering was getting better and better. The two complemented each other, and the improvement of the move was even faster. Rumble. On this day, a mountain peak in the west of the mountain range started to shake, and an extremely powerful demonic ripple spread out in all directions. Murong is coming out of seclusion. Yichen looked over. Murong Qingqing had consolidated her cultivation a week ago. In the following week, she had been using the demonic crystals to increase her demonic power. The demonic crystals were worthy of being called demonic crystals. In just a week, her cultivation had doubled. The demonic power fluctuations she emitted were much stronger than when she had just advanced to the half-step demonic king realm. Even the space around her was trembling. Stretching out her right hand, Murong Qingqing gently pushed forward. Powerful demonic energy gushed out, piercing through the mountain wall that was hundreds of meters thick. It was no harder than tofu. In a flash, Murong Qingqing turned into a black rainbow and flew out of the mountain peak. It looks like your cultivation has doubled. Yichen walked over and speculated based on the demonic aura emitted by Murong Qingqing. Murong Qingqing said, originally, it was impossible to double my cultivation in a week. However, after I advanced to the half-step demonic king realm, the remnant demonic power essence in my body started to dilute and merge with my demonic power. Demonic power essence is no small matter. It is your fortune to have obtained it. Recalling the past, Yichen couldn't help but sigh at the effect of the demonic power essence on Murong Qingqing. Without the demonic power essence, it would have been extremely difficult for Murong Qingqing to advance in this world where demonic qi was scarce. Others might have advanced by 2 realms, but she might not have advanced by 1 realm. It could be said that the demonic power essence made Murong Qingqing who she was today. This demonic power essence still has its mysteries. Murong Qingqing reached out her left hand. Amidst the flickering black light, a black crystal the size of a date seed rose up. Yichen said in surprise, "You can already control the demonic power essence?" "Yes, but it can't leave my body. Otherwise, it will scatter." Murong Qingqing faintly nodded and continued, "I can feel that there is something imprinted inside. It seems to be a demon race martial art or something. In the past couple of days, some vague fragments of information have appeared in my head. In the parallel space battlefield, the demonic king has been sealed for countless years, and his demonic power has been severely depleted. Even so, the Thunder King, the Beast King, and the Shining King were almost killed by him. It is easy to see that at his peak, he had the strength of a titled monarch. It is understandable that his demonic power essence is a bit mysterious." Yichen looked at the remaining demonic power essence and found that it was somewhat similar to a demonic power crystal, but not completely. There were many complicated and profound patterns inside. These patterns were not inanimate objects, but were slowly moving and changing form from time to time. My space profound sword art has reached 70 to 80% completion, and its power has surpassed waning moon. Your cultivation base has also been consolidated, and it has doubled. We can leave now." As he spoke, Yichen had the intention to leave. "Let's go." After staying for so many days, it was time to leave. Murong Qingqing did not have any objections. The deep ocean was boundless, as if there was no end to it. After flying above the ocean for 7 days and 7 nights, the two crossed millions of li and arrived at a new ocean region. This ocean region was marked on the map as Rich Light Ocean Span. The reason it was called Rich Light Ocean Span was because there were many ruins here. Some of these ruins would often be explored by people, obtaining treasures that ordinary people could only dream of. As time went by, this ocean region got its name. Yichen spent a large amount of spirit stones to buy a map and decided to go there to try his luck. The Sky Scorpio sword in his storage ring was a huge source of Zhenyuan. Yichen really couldn't use it. Thunder Disaster Sword and other semi-extreme grade swords were also starting to fall behind. He needed a pseudo-extreme grade sword, or perhaps an even more powerful semi-extreme grade sword. As for Murong Qingqing, she didn't have a pair of artifact gloves. I heard that Rich Light Ocean Span is very prosperous, and auctions are often held there. Perhaps we won't need to explore and can obtain what we want. Murong Qingqing smiled. "I hope so." Yichen faintly nodded. Foursquare Island was one of the more famous islands in Rich Light Ocean Span. The island was vast and towering, shaped like a square, hence the name Foursquare Island. There were many forces stationed on Foursquare Island, including human sex, demonic beast and oceanic beast forces, as well as some organizations of deviant species. In short, one could see all kinds of strange life forms here. It wouldn't be strange if one ran into them on the street, since the people here had long since become accustomed to it. With influence, there would naturally be business. The most prosperous business here was undoubtedly the auction house, followed by miscellaneous goods stores, material stores, restaurants, and so on. Due to Rich Light Ocean Span's peculiarity, many experts from the surrounding ocean span would come here from time to time to try their luck. As a result, the experts here were like cabbages. Sea of Soul Realm experts were as numerous as dogs, and half-step kings could be found everywhere. Experts were not very valuable here, but they were also very valuable. Above the ocean near Foursquare Island, numerous figures stood in the sky. Dozens of li away from these figures, 2 figures were engaged in an intense battle. The flames of battle soared into the sky, and the multicolored chi even eclipsed the blazing sun in the sky. Bastard, eat my fist! One was a golden-haired youngster, and the other was a red-faced man with a wide mouth and a square face. The two fiercely fought, and their chi raised several hundred meters tall waves. Amidst the intense battle, the golden-haired youngster roared and stomped on the waves, punching toward the red-faced man in the sky. This fist didn't contain Zhen Yuan, but an incomparably dense demonic power. The demonic power was golden in color and incomparably resplendent. Little bastard, your grandpa will skin you alive. The red-faced man wasn't someone to be trifled with. Raising the blade in his hand, he rapidly spun down. The snow-white blade light was like a tornado, devouring the golden fist power and then devouring the golden-haired youngster. The fierceness of the blade aura was frightening. There are so many experts here. 10 to 20% of the spectators are half-step kings. Amidst the crowd, two figures, one male and one female, had appeared out of nowhere. They were Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing. Yi Chen glanced around and exclaimed. Murong Qingqing was attracted by the battle and said, "That golden-haired youngster should be a half-step demonic beast king. I wonder what kind of demonic beast he is? Young miss must be a newcomer. You don't even know the young master of the Golden Lion clan, Shi Xiaobao." Beside her, a handsome youngster in luxurious clothes was attracted by Murong Qingqing's clear and melodious voice. He couldn't help but turn his head and see that the speaker was a peerless beauty. His eyes couldn't help but brighten as he said, "Golden Lion clan?" Murong Qingqing had never heard of it. Yi Chen, on the other hand, had heard of it. The Golden Lion clan should be one of the 100 beasts. They have boundless strength, and the demonic power they cultivate is called golden demonic power. Among the 100 beasts, they are ranked at the top. In the ancient era, it was said that there were more than 100 kinds of peak aptitude demonic beasts. These demonic beasts were classified as 100 beasts, and the Golden Lion clan was one of them. Some of the ancestors of the half-beast clans were also part of the 100 beasts, such as Nine-Headed Snake, Sky Tiger, Blue-Eyed White Wolf, and Yen Feng Feng. Moreover, they were ranked even higher than the Golden Lion clan. After all, the Blue Luan was a descendant of the Phoenix. You seem to know quite a bit. The well-dressed youngster sized up Yi Chen. Seeing that Yi Chen was merely at the peak of late Sea of Soul realm, he couldn't help but reveal a disdainful expression, thinking that he was merely Murong Qingqing's follower. How could a follower have the qualifications to butt in? Clearing his throat, he no longer looked at Yi Chen and said to Murong Qingqing, "Shi Xiaobao is a rare genius of the Golden Lion clan. His battle strength is extremely frightening. Even if I were to face him, I wouldn't have much of a chance of victory. As for this red-faced man, he is called Hong Aoquan. Because of a quarrel, the two have turned into a big battle. From the looks of it, they won't stop until one of them is dead." Rumble. As the well-dressed youngster spoke, the battle between Shi Xiaobao and Hong Aoquan reached its climax. Roar! A muffled thunderous roar resounded as Shi Xiaobao suddenly transformed into his true form, turning into a 30-meter-tall golden lion. This golden lion had 4 pillar-like limbs, sharp claws, and a golden mane that shone resplendently as if forged from gold. Amidst his roar, a golden light radiated in all directions as he suddenly leaped up, appearing above Hong Aoquan and stomping down. Hong Aoquan's battle strength was more or less the same as Shi Xiaobao's inhuman form. At this moment, Shi Xiaobao had reverted to his true form, so how could he be his opponent? He was stomped down, his whole body bathed in blood. Shi Xiaobao was a savage by nature. After stomping down on Hong Aoquan, his huge head swooped down and fiercely bit down on Hong Aoquan's body. Puchi! Hong Aoquan's body was torn in two at the waist. Blood spurted out as he died on the spot. Spitting out the corpse, Shi Xiaobao faced the sky and roared. A domineering aura erupted, intimidating many people. Chapter 781. He is indeed worthy of being a rare genius of the Golden Lion race. Once he regains his true form, his strength will increase by several folds. Hong Aoquan can be considered a powerful half-step king, but he was actually bitten in two. Everyone was already used to the tragic death of a half-step king. In rich light oceanography, experts died every day. They were happy to watch the show. This is already the second half-step king Shi Xiaobao has killed in this month. Titi, this golden lion is indeed brave and fierce. The luxuriously dressed youth said arrogantly with battle intent rising in his heart. Let's go. The battle had already ended, and golden lion Shi Xiaobao had the last laugh. Yichen also gained a new understanding of this peak high-grade demonic beast. Murong Qingqing followed behind Yichen. What's going on? A lackey actually wants the master to follow him? The luxuriously dressed youth was displeased, but he couldn't say anything. After all, even Murong Qingqing didn't object, so why should he? Miss, this one is Lin Yuxuan. Remember me. The luxuriously dressed youth Lin Yuxuan sent a Zhenyuan transmission to Murong Qingqing. Murong Qingqing paused for a moment, but didn't say anything. She followed behind Yichen, flying toward the nearby Four-Square Island. The top of Four-Square Island was very flat, and a huge city was situated on it, spanning several dozen li in both length and width. Landing on a long street, Yichen casually glanced around and found a map shop. Boss, give me a map of Four-Square City. Yichen arrived in front of the shop counter and knocked on the counter with his finger. Alright, here's your map. It's worth 10 upper-grade spirit stones. The shop owner took out a folded map from the counter drawer and placed it on the counter. 10 upper-grade spirit stones for a map of a city? Yichen's mouth twitched, but he didn't say anything. Walking out of the shop, Murong Qingqing laughed. The people who come here are all experts with a net worth of millions. They don't care about a mere 10 upper-grade spirit stones. Every place has a price, and it varies from person to person. However, compared to other places, it's a bit too ruthless. In an ordinary city in a small country, a city map would only cost a few taels at most. Even those super cities like the Martial City would only cost a few low-grade spirit stones. Compared to this place, the difference was too big. Of course, such a high price was understandable. The people here were all almighty Sea of Soul Realm experts and half-step kings. If one were to ask for a few low-grade spirit stones, some of them would not be able to take it out. After all, everyone had only upper-grade spirit stones, and mid-grade spirit stones were rare. The map of Four-Square City was very detailed. What was on each street was clearly marked. Let's go to the material store first. Maybe I can find what I need. Breaking through to Half-Step King Realm was not without shortcuts. According to Battle King's memories, there was a kind of half-step extreme grade spirit plant called heart-protecting flower that could protect the heart. If it could be refined into a heart-protecting pellet, the effect would be doubled. With the heart-protecting flower, Yichen would be able to increase the speed of his blood flow several times when breaking through to Half-Step King Realm. As long as the speed did not reach a certain level, he would not have to worry about his heart not being able to bear it. The material shop was on the 3rd street next door. This street was filled with material shops and grocery stores. Most of the things inside were not of much value, but it was possible to find priceless treasures. It depended on whether one had luck and good eyesight. Arriving at the first material store on the street, Yichen and Murong Qingqing walked in. 2 guests, feel free to look around. Our store's goods are guaranteed to be cheaper than other stores. The store owner greeted them warmly. Yichen faintly nodded. In this material store, most of the materials were of the middle grade. There were very few high-grade materials. As for the semi-supreme grade materials, they were all locked in the counters and could only be seen through the crystal. In some corners, there were some materials of unknown grade and function. Because they had been piled up there for many years, some dust had already fallen on them, making them look even more ancient. This place actually has soul stones. But there aren't many of them. On the wooden shelf on the east side, Yichen saw a few silver-black soul stones. He extended his soul power, but it was immediately blocked by the faint silver light outside the soul stones. Although it could not block all of them, it could still somewhat limit the soul power. Moreover, there were only a few of them. Only when there were enough of them could one's soul power be blocked. Without a doubt, these soul stones were genuine. A fist-sized soul stone would be worth about 5,000 upper-grade spirit stones on the market. These soul stones are all half the size of a fist. So, 4,000 upper-grade spirit stones would not be too much of a scam. Yi-Chen sized them up, then turned around to look for something else. "Boss, do you have any more soul stones?" Right at this moment, a man walked over, picked up a soul stone from the wooden shelf, and asked the boss. Seeing that business had come, the boss smiled and said, yes, there are some in the inventory. But they are for my own use. Look at the price." The boss rubbed his hands. "Don't worry, I will take as many as you have. In addition, I will add 5% to the price." This man was wearing a white robe and had a graceful bearing. It was obvious that he was a high-level figure in a sect. Collecting soul stones was probably a sect's mission. A powerful sect must have a protective formation that could block soul power. Therefore, soul stones were quite necessary. Therefore, soul stones were generally useless for individuals. But they were very useful for a sect. "Alright, follow me. Xiao Fong, help me look after the store." The boss smiled and led the white-robed man into one of the rooms in the store. "Let's go and have a look at the other stores." After walking around the store, Yi-Chen did not see anything good. He left the store with Murong Qingqing and returned to the street. Next, Yi-Chen visited 7 or 8 stores in a row. Finally, he found 3 heart-nourishing grass, 2 spirit-melting grass, and 1 ice spirit flower. Heart-nourishing grass was a top-rank spirit plant. It had the same effect as the heart-protecting flower. However, the difference between the two was that the heart-protecting flower emphasized the word protect. For a certain period of time, the heart-nourishing grass had an extremely powerful protective effect. On the other hand, the heart-nourishing grass was used to nourish the heart and strengthen it. After a long time, the heart would naturally be able to withstand more pressure. The 3 heart-nourishing grass could increase Yi-Chen's chances of breaking through to half-step king realm to a certain extent. But whether he would succeed or not, Yi-Chen did not know for now. As for the top-rank spirit plant, spirit melting grass, it was an extremely special spirit plant. This kind of spirit plant could allow Jin Yuan and blood to fuse for a longer period of time. When this period of time was considerable, Yi-Chen would be able to fuse his Zhen Yuan with his blood and successfully enter half-step king realm without the heart-protecting flower and heart-nourishing grass. Unfortunately, 2 plants were still too little. As for the last one, the ice spirit flower was used as a precaution. When the pressure on the heart was too great and could not be reduced in a short period of time, the ice spirit flower could be swallowed to freeze the blood flow and reduce the pressure on the heart, preventing the blood from necrosis. Using these 3 spirit plants together would undoubtedly increase the success rate. But, in truth, the effect was still not as good as the heart-protecting flower. After all, although the effect of the heart-protecting flower was very short, only lasting for a week or so, it still had a very powerful protective effect on the heart during this period of time. The 3 heart-nourishing grass cost Yi-Chen 800,000 top-rank spirit stones. The spirit-melting grass cost 200,000, so 2 would be 400,000. The ice spirit flower was a bit cheaper, costing 80,000 each. The total cost was 1,280,000 top-rank spirit stones, which was several times more expensive than other spirit plants of the same rank. The reason why it was so expensive was because everyone knew that it was a supplementary item for breaking through to half-step king realm. Once one broke through to half-step king realm, why would they care about 1 million top-rank spirit stones? Let's wait and see. The heart-nourishing grass has a nurturing process, so it won't help me break through to half-step king realm in a short period of time. Once I find the heart-protecting flower, I will be able to do so soon. Yi-Chen sighed. According to the map, he and Murong Qingqing went to another street and entered one material store after another. The sun was setting in the west, and a day passed by quickly. Yi-Chen and Murong Qingqing had visited almost all of the material stores in Foursquare City, but couldn't find a single heart-protecting flower. However, they heard from a material store owner that a trace of a heart-protecting flower appeared in an auction half a year ago, and was sold for a high price of 5 million top-rank spirit stones. No matter where it was, the heart-protecting flower was a rare treasure. It was even rarer than some of the top-rank materials, and had a price but no market. After all, there were a lot of peak-level late Sea of Soul Realm experts in 5th rank and even 4th rank sections. Once there was a heart-protecting flower, they would go crazy over it. It was impossible for it to be found in the outside world. Therefore, there were a lot of people who had heard of the heart-protecting flower, but very few who had actually seen it. After walking around with Yichen, Murong Qingqing also had some small gains. What she bought were all spirit plants with demonic nature. Their value was not high, and there were even some suspicions that it was a buy one get one free deal. In the Elysium, there were very few people who cultivated demonic arts, and not many people who cultivated demonic arts. After buying dozens of materials, they only spent 100,000 top-rank spirit stones, which was a free deal. After finding a restaurant with a courtyard, the two checked in. Night fell, and the cold wind whistled. Yichen was meditating in a special secret room in the restaurant. On the walls of the secret room, there were a few lamps, which were very bright and not dazzling. After a while, Yichen opened his eyes and took out 3 stalks of heart-nourishing grass from his storage ring. These 3 stalks of heart-nourishing grass had different maturity levels. The most mature one was 5,200 years old, while the least mature one was only 3,300 years old. Picking out the least mature one, Yichen opened his mouth and inhaled. The medicinal power inside the heart-nourishing grass turned into a sparkling blood light and was sent into Yichen's mouth. Gulp. Once the sparkling blood light entered his body, it immediately stuck to the surface of his beating heart. Under his inner vision, Yichen could see that his heart was covered with a layer of blood clothes. This blood clothes kept on wriggling, and some of the blood strands seeped into his heart, nourishing it. After about half a cup of tea's time, Yichen felt a chill in his heart, which was then followed by a wave of heat. The cold and heat kept on coming, and it was hard to tell whether it was the cold or the heat. In the end, Yichen decided to just ignore it and let the heart-nourishing grass nourish his heart. Time passed by day after day. In the blink of an eye, Yichen and Murong Qingqing had stayed for 3 days. In these 3 days, the 3,300 years old heart-nourishing grass had already absorbed half of its medicinal power into Yichen's heart. Yichen could clearly feel that his heart had become a lot stronger. Although its beating frequency did not change, it was more powerful than before. On this day, Yichen and Murong Qingqing came to a tea house in the central square of Four Square City. This tea house was very unusual. The people who came to drink tea were all experts who wanted to form a team. As for why they wanted to form a team, it was naturally to explore the ruins. There were too many dangers in the ruins. If they went alone, they would most likely die in there. Chapter 782. As soon as Yichen and Murong Qingqing entered the tea house, they didn't join in the fun. Instead, they found a window seat and sat down, ordering 2 cups of tea. The tea house was huge, divided into 4 floors. The center was hollow, so one could see the 4th floor from the 1st floor, and the 1st floor from the 4th floor. Yichen and Murong Qingqing were on the east side of the 2nd floor. Although there were a lot of people in the tea house, there wasn't any noise. Everyone was like Yichen and Murong Qingqing, sitting at their seats and drinking tea with their eyes closed. Others had arranged to enter the secret chambers of each floor to discuss matters. Everything seemed to be in order. 2 guests, your tea. The footsteps of the waiter were very light. When he arrived in front of Yichen, he said softly. Yichen nodded and told the waiter to put down the tea. The freshly brewed tea was slightly hot. Yichen picked it up and blew on it a few times. Using this opportunity, he shifted his gaze and started to observe the people in the tea house. There was nothing much to see on the 1st floor. Everyone was at the Sea of Soul Realm, and there wasn't a single half-step king. Yichen's gaze first fell on the 2nd floor. On the 2nd floor, there was only one person who caught Yichen's attention. It was the yellow-robed woman sitting on the west side. She looked to be in her 30s, and her face was tender and beautiful. Her nose was high, and her eyes were pitch black with a hint of deep yellow. Her gaze was very scattered, and it was hard to tell where her focus was. What caught Yichen's attention was not her appearance, but the extremely well-hidden strange aura on her body. This kind of aura was like a maggot in one's bones, extremely feminine. I wonder what kind of demonic beast cultivated it? Yi Chen thought to himself. Just as Yi Chen was sizing up the yellow-robed woman, she seemed to have sensed something. She turned her head toward Yi Chen, revealing a gentle yet chilling smile. Not to be trifled with, Yi Chen gave him a label. Compared to the second floor, there were undoubtedly more people worthy of attention on the third floor. There were twin brothers sitting by the railing. One was as majestic as a tower, while the other was as sturdy as a bull. Both of them wore copper earrings on their left and right ears respectively. There was a middle-aged scholar who was holding a sword and resting with his eyes closed. There was a haggard old woman with a sinister aura. There was a bald fatty with a tattoo on his head. There was also a strange old man wearing a raincoat. There are dozens of peak half-step kings in this tea house, and I can't see through 7 or 8 of them. I'm afraid they are close to strongest half-step kings. Murong Qingqing was also observing the people in the tea house. Yi Chen said, the yellow-clothed woman on the second floor and the old man in the raincoat on the third floor should be the strongest. The others aren't weak either. They're all rare powerhouses. Among the ones worth paying attention to, the yellow-robed woman and the raincoat old man posed the greatest threat to Yi Chen. Even if they weren't strongest half-step kings, they wouldn't be far off. My eyesight is still a bit worse than yours. I don't see anything wrong with these two. Murong Qingqing sized up the yellow-robed woman and the old man again and couldn't help but lightly shake her head. She didn't have the frightening intuition that Yi Chen had. Yi Chen chuckled. Based on my first impression, there might be some oversights. Perhaps there are even more hidden ones. The tea house was very quiet. From time to time, a group of people would walk out of the secret pavilion and leave the tea house. The number of people in the tea house was getting fewer and fewer, and it was getting quieter and quieter. Look, that yellow-robed woman has been invited away, Murong Qingqing said. Yi Chen looked over and saw that the one who invited the yellow-robed woman was a waiter of a tea house. He led the woman to a secret pavilion on the third floor. Soon after, the door of the pavilion closed, and the waiter walked out. Half a cup of tea's time later, the twin brothers were also invited into the secret pavilion. Another half a cup of tea's time later, the servant walked in front of Murong Qingqing. Miss, the owner of the secret pavilion invites you for a chat. Murong Qingqing wasn't surprised at all. After all, everyone came to the tea house for the same purpose, which was to form a team and explore the ruins together. I'm with him. Murong Qingqing knew that with Yi Chen's cultivation base, he would be looked down upon. In this world, how many people could be like Yi Chen, who could kill people with higher realms as if they were eating? Those who saw him for the first time would think that he could compete with ordinary half-step kings at most. Whether he could win or not was another matter. The servant obviously got the hint. Then let's go together. Following the servant, the two arrived at the door of the secret pavilion on the third floor. With a creaking sound, the secret pavilion's door opened, and Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing walked in. Seems like there is a soul stone array inlaid on the wall. Entering the secret pavilion, Yi Chen didn't find anything mysterious. Instead, his soul power could seep out, but outside, his soul power couldn't sense the situation inside. Inside the secret pavilion sat 9 people. Apart from the yellow-robed woman and the twin brothers, there were 2 young men, 1 middle-aged woman, 2 middle-aged men, and 1 old man. Sitting in the main seat was a middle-aged man. His face was bronze, and his skin had a metallic texture. His eyes were shining brightly like 2 shining black gems, more black than white. What's going on? Can a peak late sea of Soul Realm warrior join our team? Don't you think he'll drag us down? The middle-aged woman with a mean expression muttered. Hee kid, you've come to the wrong door. One of the twin brothers grinned. The 2 youths had different expressions. One had a sneer on his face, while the other was expressionless. His eyelids were drooping, as if he didn't care about anything. Meanwhile, the yellow-faced man with a lustful gaze was releasing his soul power without the slightest scruple, sweeping across Yi Chen as if he wanted to humiliate him. On the other hand, the tanned man and the yellow-robed woman didn't make a sound, calmly observing the situation. Yi Chen lightly snorted and counterattacked with his soul power. The yellow-faced middle-aged man felt his soul tremble, and his body went out of control. What shocked him was that Yi Chen's soul power seemed to carry a cutting intent, as if it was cutting into his soul. The feeling of being like a fish on a chopping board was not pleasant. Seeing that it was the yellow-faced man who was at a disadvantage, the others' gazes toward Yi Chen couldn't help but change. This yellow-faced man was a half-step king after all, and his soul power wouldn't be weak. Moreover, he had formed a soul membrane. Not many here could make him suffer a loss using soul power. Thus, they all inwardly looked at Yi Chen a bit more highly, and their attitudes were somewhat restrained, at least on the surface. "You too, please sit." The tanned man retracted his strange expression and indifferently said as he gestured with his palm. Murong Qingqing nodded and reservedly sat down. Yi Chen's gaze swept past Lin Yuxuan, who was beside the tanned man, and calmly sat down without the slightest bit of restraint. "You too, I've already discussed with everyone here to explore some ruins, and they have all agreed. The reason I've invited you two is because you two look different from the others, and your strength is certainly not weak. As the saying goes, one more person is one more portion of strength." The tan man hadn't paid much attention to Yi Chen at the beginning, and only wanted to invite Murong Qingqing. But now, he naturally couldn't say that. Moreover, Yi Chen didn't look as weak as he looked. The yellow-faced man, as a half-step king, had actually suffered quite a bit of loss in soul power. This spoke volumes. Yi Chen said, "Continue." The tan man and everyone present were somewhat astonished. Between the two, Yi Chen seemed to be the leader. Could it be that this Yi Chen really had some ability, or was it only in name? Clearing his throat, the tanned man said in a deep voice, "If you two agree, I'll continue. If you two don't agree, then please leave. For the time being, not many people know about the ruins I've discovered. This information can't be leaked." Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing exchanged a glance. Then Yi Chen said in a deep voice, "We agree." "All right then." The bronze-skinned middle-aged man smiled and said, "This relic is very large. The place I found is only a part of it. But even this part is not small. This relic is the relic of the True Water Palace." True Water Palace ruins? Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing were at a loss. They'd never heard of it before. Lin Yuxuan interjected, "True Water Palace was once the strongest fourth-grade sect in this ocean region. Its strength is not something any fourth-grade sect can compare to. In its most flourishing era, it had 13 life and death kings, and its master was one of the strongest titled monarchs at that time, True Water Emperor." 13 kings. True Water Emperor. Yi Chen was inwardly startled. This True Water Palace was indeed frightening at its peak. Nowadays, which sect could have 13 life and death kings? Not to mention a titled monarch, True Water Emperor. In ancient times, titled monarchs were genuine monarchs who could leave their marks on the emperor's scar steel. However, even the most flourishing sects would fall one day. The current True Water Palace was merely a pile of ruins, lying silently at the bottom of the ocean for countless years. "There's something I'd like to tell everyone. This ruin is shrouded by a restriction, and for some reason, many frightening life forms have appeared inside. I've invited everyone to enter so that we can take care of each other and smoothly take away the treasures inside." The bronze-skinned burly man explained. "All right, when do we leave? These kinds of ruins would usually have great weapons." So, Yi Chen did not hesitate and agreed right away. "In order to avoid any accidents, and I'm also afraid that someone might leak the news, we'll leave the moment we leave the secret pavilion. Does anyone have any objections?" The tan man's gaze swept the surroundings and asked, "What objections can we have? It doesn't matter when we leave." The twin brothers grinned. "Me neither." The cold-faced youngster nodded. The others naturally didn't have any objections. Wasn't the reason they came to Richlight Oceanspan to try their luck and obtain some treasures? "All right, there's no rush for now. Everyone, rest for a while. After drinking some tea, we'll leave together." The tan man didn't intend to invite anyone anymore. He nodded in satisfaction and lightly shook the bell in the secret pavilion, ordering people to bring tea and pastries. After drinking tea and eating some pastries, the tanned man stood up and said, "Let's go." Chapter 783. Chaotic demonic ocean was far enough from true spirit continent, but rich light ocean span was even farther. It was already in the depths of the Southern Ocean. There were few people here, but many oceanic beasts were plentiful. However, due to the vile environment, the oceanic beasts were cruel, bloodthirsty, and had low intelligence. The group of 11 flew above the ocean, encountering the attacks of oceanic beasts and flying demonic beasts from time to time. Moreover, they came in large groups, numbering in the thousands and tens of thousands. The group was quite annoyed, and their speed kept decreasing, wasting a lot of time. Only after 3 days did they reach their destination. The bronze-skinned man was called Jin Wanchuang, an old man of rich light ocean span. Relying on his good luck and ability to judge the situation, he had obtained a lot of treasures. With these treasures, as well as thousands of extreme battles, his strength had long since reached the profound realm of half-step kings. Although few people had seen him fight and didn't know his exact strength, no one dared to look down on him. After dozens of years, those old men of rich light ocean span had either died or left. Only he was alive and well. Standing at the front of the team, Jin Wanchuang turned around and said, "The ruins are 300,000 meters below the seabed. Remember, follow me later. There is a huge water array around the ruins. Although it's badly damaged, the slightest carelessness will cause you to be attacked by it. I'm sure everyone knows what will happen if you cause too much of a commotion 300,000 meters below the seabed. We're naturally aware of this. We'll follow you." The only old man in the group spoke for the first time. His face was full of wrinkles, showing the traces of time and the vicissitudes of life. "All right, let's go." Jin Wanchuang's figure flickered, turning into a golden rainbow and shooting down. Swish, swish, swish. Yi Chen and the others followed behind him, not leaving even an inch behind. 300,000 meters was an extremely dangerous depth for ordinary Sea of Soul Realm experts. The water pressure here was unimaginably powerful. As long as there was a hole in the protective Zhenyuan, one would instantly be squeezed into a meatball. Even if a half-step king retracted his protective Zhenyuan, his life would still be in danger. However, apart from Yichen, the rest were all half-step kings. As long as they were a bit careful and didn't get careless, the chances of something happening were very low. Soon, everyone arrived at a depth of 300,000 meters. The huge water pressure caused their speed to become slower and slower. They were not even 1% of their speed on land. The bottom of the deep sea wasn't pitch black. There were many glowing things here, including glowing crystal corals and small glowing creatures. There was a kind of creature with a shining tail and a perfectly round body the size of a thumb. It looked extremely hard, like a solid metal ball. About dozens of meters above the seabed, everyone was wrapped in a colorful protective layer of Zhenyuan, slowly swimming forward. After a cup of tea's worth of time, Jin Wanchuang's voice came through the vibration of his Zhenyuan. "We're here. This is the outer area of the ruins, covered by the water element formation. Everyone, be careful and follow me." Everyone nodded and looked ahead. In the dim seabed, there were many white jade stone pillars that were dozens of meters tall. The surface of the stone pillars was carved with complicated water patterns. From time to time, there would be blue flowing lights following the traces of the water patterns, attracting many spherical creatures to come closer. Jin Wanchuang waved his hand and began swimming toward the stone pillars. No one knew how big the stone pillars were. If it weren't for Jin Wanchuang leading the way, they might have gotten lost in the stone pillars and couldn't find their way out. It should be known that the reason why a formation was called a formation was that it wouldn't have too many flaws. For example, the seemingly safest place, the sky, might actually be the most dangerous. Therefore, no one swam to the top of the white jade stone pillars. They all maintained a height of dozens of meters. Many of these white jade stone pillars have already been broken or collapsed. If we follow the broken pillars, the formation won't be triggered. Yichen finally saw through it. No matter how big the stone pillars were, there was still a limit. Everyone followed behind Jin Wanchuang, turning here and there, sometimes taking a big circle. Finally, they passed through the entire stone pillar group and arrived in front of a dilapidated but exceptionally grand building complex. The tallest building was over 1,000 meters tall, standing at the bottom of the ocean. The shortest was an arched gate at the front, which was at least 70 to 80 meters tall. It was clearly not Jin Wanchuang's first time here. He explained, "This is the ruin I've found. However, I've only explored less than 1/10 of it, and this arch door is the only entrance. We need to break the restrictions on this door to enter." "That's easy. Let us do it." The two brothers walked up. The older one took out a human-sized axe, while the younger one took out 2 machetes. Jin Wanchuang didn't object. The restriction on the arched gate wasn't that high-leveled. With the 2 strength, it was more than enough to break it. If they couldn't, then there was no point in entering the ruin. It was too dangerous. The 2 brothers roared at the same time. The axe and machetes slashed toward the arched gate. Their speed was so fast that even at the seabed, it was enough to raise everyone's eyebrows. Kacha! The arched gate flickered, and a huge hole appeared. "Come, let's go in." Jin Wanchuang led the group and entered through the hole. The moment everyone entered, the hole had already been repaired. The light was withdrawn, and there was nothing strange about it from the outside. The ruin was very dilapidated. The buildings were all over the place, and there were some places where the ground had caved in. Black chi was surging inside, and it was immeasurably deep. A single glance would make one dizzy. No one knew what had happened here. Yichin used his soul power to sense it and vaguely felt a trace of evil aura. The moment his soul power touched this aura, an illusion and a bad omen immediately appeared in his mind. It was a bit like a curse. This place is indeed an ominous place. Yichin transmitted his Zhen Yuan to Murong Qingqing, telling her to be on guard at all times. I also felt it. Just now, when I used my demonic eyes to observe, I seemed to have seen a blurry shadow flash through the buildings. Murong Qingqing replied, "Since we're already here, we'll just deal with it." Yichin was not the kind of person who was overly worried. Following the passageway, the group walked here and there, and soon reached the depths of the building complex, arriving in front of a winding corridor. The carvings on the pillars on both sides of the corridor were very strange. They were all bronze-armored warriors. No one knew if it was for the sake of realism or something, but the weapons of the bronze-armored warriors were forcibly inserted into the pillars. Holding the weapons in their hands, the postures were all different. "I've never been here before." Jin Wanchuang only said one sentence before walking in front. "They're just decorations." The twin brothers were the most unscrupulous, touching here and there. They even wanted to pull out the weapons of the bronze-armored warriors, not knowing the meaning of caution. The corridor was rather long, and unknowingly, the group arrived at the center. Crack! A faint sound was heard. "What's that sound?" The middle-aged woman stopped. "Watch out." The group behind her raised their heads and saw that the bronze-armored warrior on the pillar to the right of the middle-aged woman had opened its eyes, shooting out a red light. Rumble! The bronze-armored warrior jumped down and slashed at the middle-aged woman's head with its saber. This scene happened too quickly. The bronze-armored warrior seemed to have broken through the limits of space and appeared above the middle-aged woman. Yichin could clearly see that the bronze-armored warrior and the pillar were not embedded, but connected by an array. Therefore, after the bronze-armored warrior jumped down, the pillar still had its carvings, but they were not as realistic as before. The middle-aged woman was not a small character. She was very, very powerful. Apart from Thunder Spirit King and Blackwater Alliance's Wang Tai, Yichin had never seen anyone stronger than her. Of course, that was in the past. After arriving at Foursquare Island, Yichin had already discarded his previous understanding. There were too many half-step kings on the island, and there were also many half-step kings with unfathomable depths. Among the 11 present, which one of them was simple? If they were to fall out, Yichin wouldn't dare to look down on any one of them. Under life and death realm, he was far from being invincible. In the blink of an eye, the middle-aged woman's body faintly swayed, leaving behind a lifelike afterimage. The bronze-armored warrior slashed down, cleaving the afterimage into 2 and dispersing it. "You dare to have designs on this old lady." The middle-aged woman's temperament was unkind. She coiled her finger, and a black thread coiled around the bronze-armored warrior's neck. With a forceful pull, a head was torn off. "Let's go." Jin Wenshuang was very experienced. With a single glance, he could tell that the bronze-armored warrior's strength was equivalent to an ordinary half-step king. The middle-aged woman didn't die because of her superior strength. However, the number of bronze-armored warriors in the corridor was not just a few dozen, but several hundred. 11 against several hundred bronze-armored warriors was not an easy task. Ka. Just as Jin Wenshuang's voice faded, the bronze-armored warriors on the corridor revived one after another, crowding the corridor so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Clang. Yichen waved his sword and sent a bronze-armored warrior flying. The opponent's bronze armor was extremely sturdy, and only a sword mark was left on it. It seemed that only the exposed parts of the armor were the weak points, such as the neck, eyes, and face. "Let's go." So many. The group didn't have the time to face the bronze-armored warriors head-on. They crazily ran, blowing away the bronze-armored warriors, blocking their way one after another, opening up a path for only one person. At this moment, everyone's style was revealed. Jin Wenshuang's attacks were simple and unadorned. They were not magnificent, but they were extremely effective. They were just right, not wasting the slightest bit of strength. The experienced old man was not inferior to Jin Wenshuang. His withered palms seemed slow, but were actually fast. The bronze-armored warriors on both sides were squeezed together, unable to exert their strength. Although the yellow-faced man had suffered a loss at the hands of Yichen, he wasn't weak either. Holding a shield in one hand and a spear in the other, his footsteps were steady as he borrowed strength to counterattack. The cold-faced youngster was a sword artist just like Yichen. His sword speed was extremely fast, and the bronze-armored warriors pouncing at him were all blown away by his sword chi, unable to climb back up for a long time. On the other hand, Lin Yuxuan seemed to be somewhat inexperienced. His moves were wide and powerful, and the bronze-armored warriors that were hit by him fell off one after another. Although it seemed like he was unstoppable, doing so in this kind of dangerous place was a bit too much of a waste of Zhenyuan. The yellow-robed lady was indeed one of the people that Yichen couldn't see through. From the beginning to the end, she hadn't made a single move, and those bronze-armored warriors couldn't even touch her clothes. Chapter 784. In addition to these people, there were also two people in the crowd who were even more unscrupulous than Lin Yuxuan. They were the twin brothers. The two of them carried a giant axe and a machete as they charged forward. How could the charging bronze-armored warriors resist the two wolf-like people? They were knocked over and lost their footing, swaying left and right. However, they were different from Lin Yuxuan. These two mostly relied on brute force and did not use much Zhenyuan. Although they looked impressive, their consumption was pitiful. As for the middle-aged woman, she found it difficult to deal with so many bronze-armored warriors. It could be seen that she walked the path of cunning and sinister. 1 against 1, 1 against 2. It was much easier for her to deal with them than ordinary people, but once the numbers reached a certain level, she would find it difficult to deal with them. Fortunately, her movement techniques were quite good, and she could always avoid the bronze-armored warriors' attacks at critical moments and follow closely behind the group. Yichen and Murong Qingqing were also at the back of the group. In front of them were the twin brothers, and behind them was the middle-aged woman. Murong Qingqing relied on speed to make a living. Speed was her talent, so she was naturally very calm. Clang, 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 clang. Yichen strolled leisurely. The Thunder Disaster Sword in his hands seemed slow but was actually fast. Every time it was swung, it was just right when the warriors were about to attack. So, it looked like they were coming to him on their own. It was orderly and pleasing to the eye. Before, the middle-aged woman had looked down on Yichen a bit, thinking that he had no other use besides his soul power. But now, she did not think that way anymore. Among the 11 people, Yichen was the most relaxed. It was not that he was the strongest, but his perception and timing were the best. This brat does have some skills. He is not that easy to deal with. If there are any disputes in the future, I will wait and see. Living at their level, it was very important to judge the situation. Arguing with someone they had no confidence in dealing with was not a rational and stupid thing to do. The bronze-armored warriors in the corridor were like a tide, while the group was like an iron boat on the tide, cutting through the waves and pressing forward. After about the time it took to drink half a cup of tea, everyone safely passed through the corridor. Turning around, they saw that all the bronze-armored warriors were frozen in place. Then, with a flash of light, they merged into the pillars on both sides of the corridor, becoming one with the sculptures. "Is everyone all right?" Jin Wanchuang let out a breath and asked after scanning the surroundings. "Not bad, let's continue forward." The bronze-armored warriors were nothing more than an appetizer for them. Any one of them would be an invincible figure under life and death realm. How could they be defeated by a group of mindless scrap metal? That's good. Jin Wanchuang continued to lead the way. He also believed that these things wouldn't be too troublesome. When he invited people, he had thought it through. Of course, there were many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in the tea house, so he had only invited a portion of them. After passing through the corridor, everyone came to a central hall. This hall was equivalent to an aisle rest area. There were some rest rooms on both sides, but there was nothing else. Everyone left the hall and directly walked out of the hall through the passage in front. As soon as they exited the hall, everyone suddenly stopped. What entered his eyes was a large forest that was divided into two. The small path in the middle was the only path that led to the other side. In the forest, there were countless red lights that flickered as if there were countless fireflies dancing in it. It was incomparably gorgeous. Without saying anything, Jin Wanchuang took a deep breath and took a step forward. The secluded path was covered in layers of mist and immeasurably deep. The trees on both sides of the path were lush and quiet, carrying a trace of deathly stillness. So beautiful! A firefly flew down from a nearby tree and was about to perch on the shoulder of the younger twin brother. It shone as brightly as a bean. The younger twin was attracted by the firefly and reached out to grab it. Bang! An intense flame exploded, and a powerful chi wave blew the surrounding 10 people off balance, making it hard for them to open their eyes. Meanwhile, the younger twin's entire right hand was scorched black, emitting green smoke. "Little brother!" The older twin was startled. "Motherfucker, this firefly can even explode." The younger twin turned his head and revealed a smile toward the older brother. His scorched right arm lightly shook, and the ashes of his clothes fell down, revealing the skin underneath. What a powerful body! Yi Chen's eyes squinted. The might of a firefly's explosion could only be described as frightening, not any weaker than a full-powered attack of a normal half-step king. Yet, the younger twin was still fine even after holding it. It was easy to imagine the extent of his body's defense. If it were someone else, their arm would definitely be destroyed. This is a self-exploding firebug. The elder opened his eyes wide and said word by word. Self-exploding firebug? The others looked at him with a confused expression. A trace of fear appeared on the elder's face. These bugs have existed since ancient times, but they are extinct now. The explosion of one self-exploding firebug will attract all the others. This is the fire forest, a place where powerful warriors burn. If you want to live, leave this place as soon as possible. Where to run? Everyone looked ahead and then back. Both sides were covered in layers of mist, making it hard to advance or retreat. If they went forward, they wouldn't know where the end was, and if they retreated, the distance was not short either. Moreover, they had come here for treasures, so there was no reason to retreat. However, compared to their lives, retreating did not seem shameful. Forward! Jin Wanchuang's face was firm as he led the way. Follow him. At this moment, there was only unity. However, when they saw countless light dots coming through the mist, everyone stopped and looked at each other in dismay. They're coming. There are some on the left and right as well. Are they forcing us to retreat? Whoosh! As everyone discussed, the twin brothers shot out an axe light and 2 blade lights. The axe light and blade light were as fast as lightning, slashing into the depths of the mist. Pung 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 pung, continuous explosions resounded, and the dazzling flame light illuminated the entire fire forest. The mist on the path was also swept away by the shockwave, leaving no obstacles behind. Everyone looked forward and could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. They could not see the end of the line. What they saw was an overwhelming number of self-detonating fireworms. Among them, there were some fist-sized self-detonating fireworms with blue light flashing on their tails. On the other hand, although there were a lot of them, they were sparse, not even 1% of the ones at the front. The ones on the left and right sides were a bit more than the ones at the back. Jin Wanchuang turned his head and said, "This is the only way. Either we go forward or we go back. If we go back, then this ruin will have nothing to do with him, unless we can find a way to deal with these bugs. Since we came here together, we will naturally advance and retreat together. Now let's vote. Those who support moving forward, take one step forward, and those who support moving back, take one step back." The bugs were getting closer and closer, flying up and down. They didn't have much time left. Forward. The cold-looking youngster was the first to vote as he took a step forward. "I also agree to move forward." The yellow-robed lady was the second. Agreed. Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing moved forward at the same time. In the end, only the elder and the middle-aged lady didn't vote. Lin Yuxuan hesitated a bit, but still took a step forward. 9 against 2. Whether we vote or not, it is meaningless. The elder took a deep breath and calmed himself down. "Then, let's go forward." The middle-aged lady's face was bitter. She couldn't go back alone. The treasure was too tempting, and she would definitely regret it when she went back. At this moment, the elder said again, "The bugs will be attracted by blood qi. Only by approaching them will they come over. We have to be fast and don't try to kill them. On the other hand, if the blood qi is reserved, it won't come near." The yellow-robed lady suddenly said. The elder said bitterly, "How could it be that easy? Reserved blood qi is useless against the bugs. As long as you are still alive, they will be able to sense your blood qi." The yellow-robed lady smiled without replying. Could she be able to do that? Yi Chen sensed a non-committal expression flash past the yellow-robed lady's face, which made him suspicious. "All right, since everyone has agreed, then from now on, don't think about anything else. Take out all the things that can be used for defense. Don't be afraid of wasting them." Jin Wanchuang activated his defensive armor. He didn't carry any weapons in his hands, but 2 shields, one big and one small. The big one was as tall as a human, while the small one was only 1 meter. The others also had a lot of stock. Just like Jin Wanchuang, they all held shields and activated their defensive armors. They were all armed to the teeth, looking like warriors who were about to enter the battlefield. Charge! The group of 11 people flew forward at their fastest speed. Due to the invisible power in the ruins, their speed was only 1% of their speed on land. The self-exploding flaming bugs were a kind of fierce bug that was extremely sensitive to blood qi. Everyone revolved their Zhen Yuan, causing their blood qi to become even more exuberant. Without a doubt, the self-exploding flaming bugs were even more attractive to them. One by one, they flew over and then developed into groups. As far as the eye could see, the sky was filled with light spots. Boom, 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 boom. Flames shrouded everyone, along with a series of metal exploding sounds. It was the sound of the bugs hitting the metal shields. Go! The upper rank shield in his hand was destroyed. Yi Chen shook his Zhen Yuan, and the shield flew out along with a wave of fireflies. He then took out another shield, and the one that he had thrown away disappeared into the distance with a ball of flame. The speed at which the shields were being destroyed was too fast. Upper-grade shields would not be able to last for a long time, and only the semi-extreme grade shields could slightly withstand this kind of explosion. Unfortunately, shields were one of the rarer artifacts, and everyone only had 1 or 2 semi-extreme grade shields on them. At most, they would take out 1, since no one would use all of their semi-extreme grade shields on the exploding firebugs. Therefore, the upper-grade shields had become the fastest consumable. After dozens of breaths, everyone had already used up dozens of shields, which was a horrifying sight to behold. All of a sudden, a 10 times louder sound exploded, and the group's formation was torn apart. Yi Chen looked over. Unknowingly, Those fist-sized fireflies with their tails flickering with blue light had also joined the attack. Their self-detonation power was 10 times that of ordinary fireflies. Chapter 785. After splitting up, the crowd did not dare to be careless. Not only did they not slow down, they even activated their secret arts, increasing their speed drastically. Of course, no one dared to collide with the blue fireflies. They were all trying their best to avoid them. Even if they could not avoid them, they would still send out an attack to take them down. As time went by, everyone began to understand the terror of the exploding firebugs more and more. Normal attacks were useless against the exploding firebugs. There seemed to be an invisible membrane around their bodies, which had the effect of neutralizing chi power. Only extremely condensed attacks could hit the exploding firebugs from a distance and make them explode. On the other hand, the exploding firebugs could actually ignore their protective Zhenyuan to a certain extent. If it were not for the shields in their hands, they would have already been blown to pieces. Dark force field. Dozens of blue fireflies flew over from Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing's side. The ordinary fireflies numbered in the thousands, and their speed was extremely fast. Murong Qingqing's expression turned serious. Her body suddenly flickered with purple-black electric arcs. As the electric arcs appeared, a twisting force field spread out, enveloping the fireflies in the surroundings. Buzz! All the fireflies that approached were bounced off, unable to move an inch closer. When Murong Qingqing was still at Clasping Yuan realm, she had already mastered the Sky Demon force field. But now, the Sky Demon force field had naturally been eliminated. According to the characteristics of the Sky Demon Great Art, Murong Qingqing had researched the Dark Force Field based on the Dark Profound. Compared to the Sky Demon force field, the Dark Force Field had reached a whole new level. It was like comparing the magnetic field of a human body to the magnetic field of a star. With the protection of the Dark Force Field, Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing immediately felt a lot more relaxed. I didn't expect the force field to be so useful at this moment. Yi Chen sighed. Murong Qingqing's dark force field had yet to reach a profound level. Using it to deal with a half-step king of the same level, it was naturally insufficient and ineffective. However, it was more than enough to deal with the self-detonating flaming bugs. This was like the saying, everything has its counter. Murong Qingqing said, previously, I didn't understand the characteristics of the self-detonating fireflies. That's why I tried using the darkness force field to block them. The effect is better than I expected. Yi Chen smiled and said, with the darkness force field, we can come and go as we please. The sudden silence on their side naturally aroused the suspicions of the others. Immediately, 8 or 9 soul forces scanned over. The middle-aged woman's eyes lit up and a look of ecstasy flashed across her face. Among everyone here, she was the one in the most sorry state. The successive explosions had already caused her to suffer considerable internal injuries. If it wasn't for her profound cultivation and several secret techniques that could lock her injuries and prevent them from worsening, she would have long since been smashed into pieces. Even so, she also began to despair. This small path seemed to have no end, and just like the small path, there was no end to the self-exploding fireflies. They were innumerable. If this continued, she would be blown to death sooner or later. At this moment, seeing that Murong Qingqing had a secret technique to restrain the fireflies, how could she not be ecstatic? Disregarding everything else, the middle-aged woman urged her Zhenyuan and turned toward Murong Qingqing's direction with her shield in hand. She wanted to seek shelter and leave this damned place. Not only the middle-aged woman, but the others also rapidly approached. Among them, there were some who were confident in passing through the small path, but they would certainly consume a lot of energy. At this moment, a shelter had suddenly appeared. Who would be stupid enough to not accept it? Buzz. The middle-aged woman was just about to approach, but unexpectedly, an invisible force field bounced her back. Normally, she could naturally break through the force field, but at this moment, this force field was her only hope. The middle-aged woman's face was full of grievance and anger. Miss, we are now a team, so we should help each other. How about this? I promise on behalf of them that as long as we find a treasure, not only will you be the first to choose, you will also get 10% more. How about it? Does everyone agree? Jin Wanchuang was indeed worthy of being an experienced person. At this moment, he knew that it would not be good for anyone to fall out. Moreover, before coming here, no one had thought that they would need to seek shelter. It was true that they were a team, but when there was only one person who could protect the others, it was a completely different matter. Finishing his words, Jin Wanchuang turned to the others. He believed that they would make the right choice. 10% more, but only for the first time. The twin brothers nodded, then shook their heads. All right, I have no objections. Me too. Everyone agreed. They did not know how long the small path was, and they did not dare to joke around with their lives. Let them in, Yichen said to Murong Qingqing. Murong Qingqing faintly nodded and opened a gap in the dark force field, letting everyone in. Puff. As soon as they entered, the fireflies followed the blood qi. However, the dark force field had already closed up, and they were bounced away. Maintaining the dark force field, Murong Qingqing led everyone and continued to advance. In fact, she did not let the middle-aged woman in at the beginning, not because of her personal benefits, but because of her personal principles. If you want to come in, then come in. What do you think I am? At this moment, she could not take a single step back. She had to maintain her position, or else others would take it for granted. Although it would not cause any irreconcilable conflict, it was still a problem. The reason Yichen did not stop her before was because he knew why Murong Qingqing wanted to do this. Only after everyone expressed their opinions did he let Murong Qingqing open the dark force field. The length of the small path was beyond everyone's imagination. After flying for a cup of tea's worth of time, they still could not see the end. At this moment, everyone's displeasure was completely gone. Compared to the extra 10% of the treasures, they did not lose out at all. On the contrary, they had profited. This kind of length was something that no one among them could pass safely. They would have to pay some price, perhaps even their lives. Moreover, they still could not see the end. Who knew how long it would be? Jin Wanchuang also had the same thought. He smiled at Murong Qingqing and said, "Many thanks." Murong Qingqing nodded and did not say anything else. Another cup of tea's worth of time passed, and everyone finally saw the end. They all let out a breath, getting rid of their previous gloominess. Plop. At the end of the small path, everyone landed. Looking back, he saw that the fireflies were like headless flies, flying around aimlessly. It was as if they could not sense the presence of blood qi. After a while, all of the fireflies dispersed and flew into the blazing forest, disappearing without a trace. Finally made it. Jin Wanchuang laughed. Your force field is rather special. It should be driven by profound, right? The yellow-robed woman looked at Murong Qingqing with interest. Same here. Murong Qingqing said a thought-provoking sentence. The yellow-robed woman was dazed at first, then slightly surprised. She did not say anything and retreated to the side. This woman is really hard to understand, Yichen said. Both of them had already noticed that when they were attacked by the self-exploding flaming worms, all 10 of them were flustered. Only the yellow-clothed woman had very few self-exploding flaming worms around her. Thinking back to what the yellow-clothed woman had said before, that as long as she restrained her blood qi, she would not be attacked, it was not difficult to guess what was going on. Of course, the two did not believe that the others were fools. They must have noticed the peculiarity of the yellow-robed woman, but just did not say it out loud. The extremely dangerous small path landed behind them. In front of everyone's eyes was a golden palace. The palace's door was tightly shut, looking majestic. Open! Jin Wanchuang saw that the palace's door was not covered by any restrictions, so he slapped his palm toward the metal door. Rumble! The doors of the palace that had been closed for countless years finally opened. It was as if a door to the past had been opened to the crowd. Everyone held their breath and stared unblinkingly at the gradually opening palace, afraid to miss the most exciting moment. The palace's door finally opened completely. All of a sudden, a spirit qi light pillar shot out from the door. No one had expected such a change. None of them could dodge in time and were hit by the light pillar. However, no one was injured. Instead, they felt refreshed. This spirit chi light pillar did not have any offensive power. Once it hit them, they absorbed a lot of it. This is the spirit chi emitted by spirit stones. The middle-aged woman exclaimed. How many spirit stones are needed to gather such a dense spirit chi light pillar? That rush just now seemed to have recovered some of the zhenyuan I had consumed. The two brothers opened their mouths wide. Let's go in first. Jin Wanchuang took a deep breath and walked into the palace. The group followed behind him. The palace wasn't very big, and it was decorated with gold and jade. Bright crystal lamps hung from the ceiling, and the floor was paved with priceless white jade bricks. In the center of the palace, there was a huge formation. The formation was circular, and there were countless patterns carved in the center. It was incomparably beautiful. What attracted everyone's attention wasn't the formation, but the spirit stones that were pushed into the formation. A small mountain of spirit stones. All of them were high-grade spirit stones. Next to the small mountain of spirit stones were 7 or 8 small chests, their lids already open. Inside were all sorts of power gems of various attributes: red, blue, green, black, yellow, pink, purple, and everything else. So many upper-grade spirit stones. How many are there? And 7 to 8 chests of energy gems? Everyone's mouths were wide open, unable to say anything. The elder was the first to recover. He cleared his throat and said, there are at least 500 million upper-grade spirit stones and 7 chests of energy gems. Not a wasted trip. Not a wasted trip. The yellow-faced man's face was full of joy. Although they had come for treasures and did not care much about upper-grade spirit stones, when they reached a certain level, no one would not be tempted. They were no exception. One must know that with their net worth, having 10 to 20 million upper spirit stones was already the limit, and this was under the premise that they did not consume much. If they bought some priceless items and participated in a few auctions, their net worth would be reduced by at least a few times. 500 million upper-grade spirit stones would be at least 40 to 50 million per person. Adding the energy gems, it would be at least 50 to 60 million. Chapter 786. What kind of concept was 50 to 60 million? It was almost equivalent to 10 half-step kings' net worth. Entering that kind of huge auction, they would be almost invincible. Of course, the premise was that there were no life and death king's parents. After all, although 50 to 60 million was a lot, it was not much for life and death king. A life and death king could casually go to a king-grade forbidden zone or find some treasures in the starry sky and sell them for hundreds of millions. But no matter what, 50 to 60 million was a shocking amount of wealth for most of the half-step kings. If they encountered it, they would definitely not let it go. Jin Wanchuang let out a breath and said, according to what we said before, this Lady Murong will get an extra 10% of the treasures. In other words, we will first take out 10% of the upper-grade spirit stones and give it to her. The remaining 90% will be split among the 11 of us. Does anyone have any objections? Jin Wanchuang did not let the upper-rank spirit stones go to his head. Keeping promises was the basic requirement of forming a team. If he broke his promise because of a large amount of upper-rank spirit stones, how could he expect others to keep their promises? As the leader of this team, Jin Wanchuang had the obligation to keep his promise. He did not want the team to fall apart because of him, which was not in line with his personal principles. Taking a step back, they had not even explored a third of the ruins, and there would definitely be other treasures later on. There was no need to create irreconcilable conflicts over the first batch of treasures, which was not rational at all. 10% is more than 50 million upper-rank spirit stones. The twin brother was a money grubber, so he was quite reluctant. What? You two don't plan to keep your promise? Jin Wanchuang's face sank. How could that be? Although 50 million is a lot, it would only be a few million after splitting it evenly. We two brothers can still see the big picture. The older twin brother grinned. I'll listen to my brother. The younger twin brother also said, what about you guys? Jin Wanchuang looked at the others. I have no objections. We've already made a deal. Why would we go back on our words? A few million upper-rank spirit stones is not enough for me to throw away my face. The middle-aged woman snorted. The most troublesome ones had been dealt with, so the others did not have any objections. All right, let's start counting the upper-rank spirit stones. Jin Wanchuang revealed a smile and walked over. Seeing this, Yichen smiled faintly. A darkness force field had earned him 50 million upper spiritual stones. This was a very good deal. Unfortunately, there were times when things did not go as one wished. Just when everyone was about to count the number of upper spiritual stones, a group of people suddenly appeared at the other end of the teleportation formation. This group of people was one less than Yi Chen's group, but the aura they emitted was even stronger. And among them, the leader was the golden-haired young master of the Golden Lion clan, Shi Xiaobao. Shi Xiaobao had a tall stature, at least 2 or 3 meters tall. He had broad shoulders, a golden complexion, and a pair of golden eyes that emitted a resplendent golden radiance. But this alone was not enough to worry Yi Chen. What worried Yi Chen was that among the people standing next to Shi Xiaobao, there were a few that he could not see through back in the tea house. For example, there was a bald fatty with a tattoo on his head, a middle-aged scholar carrying a sword, a middle-aged woman with a sinister aura, and a short old man wearing a raincoat. Apart from them, although Yi Chen had never seen the others beside Shi Xiaobao, none of them could be underestimated. They were not at all inferior to their side, and there were even 1 or 2 that surpassed them. The sudden arrival of the uninvited guests caused Jin Wanchuang's group to tense up. Each of them stared at the other side, and the atmosphere became extremely tense. "I'm afraid we're going to have a big battle," Murong Qingqing said gravely. Yi Chen nodded. "Unless everyone can sit down and divide the spirit stones equally. But that's obviously impossible, so we can only have a big battle. There were too many things that happened in ancient ruins because of wealth, so it would be strange if there weren't any great battles. Moreover, everyone was already used to this sudden great battle, so they wouldn't have any complaints, nor would they cower in the slightest. So many top-grade spirit stones, the heavens are indeed blessing me, Shi Xiaobao." Walking out of the teleportation array, Shi Xiaobao ignored everyone and laughed arrogantly. His golden hair fluttered in the wind like a golden flame. "Hee, why do I see a few flies?" The bald fatty's body moved horizontally, and he stood beside Shi Xiaobao like a lump of meat, trembling incessantly. However, this person's mouth was too sharp, immediately belittling Yi Chen's group. Just like Shi Xiaobao, he did not put them in his eyes. Just slapped them to death. There was also a middle-aged woman on Shi Xiaobao's side. Although she did not look like the middle-aged woman on Yi Chen's side, and her figure was a bit sturdier, her aura was a bit similar. Being stared at by her small eyes was like being stared at by a venomous snake. On this side, Jin Wanchuang did not speak, but looked at everyone else. This was not a battle of one person, but a battle of one team against another. He needed to ask everyone's opinion. If a few people did not agree, then there would be no need to fight, since they would not be able to win anyway. Those who block the way shall die. The apathetic youngster who had been silent all this while coldly looked at Shi Xiaobao's group and spat out these words. Faintly nodding, Jin Wanchuang looked at the others. "Those who obstruct us brothers from getting rich are all people who deserve to die. Killing those who deserve to die is our greatest pleasure." The twin brothers had a fiery temperament. Forcing them to retreat was worse than killing them. The younger twin brother could no longer hold back and was about to attack. His eyes were filled with savagery, and there was no trace of his previous naive appearance. When Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing were invited to the secret pavilion, Yi Chen had already seen this kind of expression. He naturally knew that these two could not be judged by their appearance. "That chick is not bad." The yellow-faced man had suffered at Yi Chen's hands. On the way, he did not look at Murong Qingqing with his lustful eyes, only sneaking a few glances. But now, his true nature was exposed. His naked eyes constantly scanned the young woman on Shi Xiaobao's right, as if he could see something he should not see through her clothes. "I'm old and I don't have many years left. The only ancient old man sighed and said something unimportant. However, when they heard it, it sounded a bit sinister. "Leave that old woman to me." The middle-aged woman did not like the middle-aged woman in front of her. She was too ugly. Now, only the yellow-robed woman, Lin Yushuan, and Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing remained. However, Jin Wanshuang retracted his gaze, not intending to ask anything. He couldn't see through the yellow-robed woman, but if she was a kind person, then he would have wasted his eyes. Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing, just from their baleful auras, one could tell that they had killed many people, especially Yi Chen, whose baleful aura was heavier than anyone else's. Jin Wanshuang admitted that he had underestimated Yi Chen. Perhaps this person was even more terrifying than he had imagined. Lin Yushuan was young and frivolous. This kind of person was like a newborn calf that was not afraid of a tiger. The twin brothers roared savagely. Their footsteps shook the air as their killing intent and savagery filled the air. They were itching to immediately kill their way over. "A bunch of ants dares to clamor in front of me? I'll tear you apart alive." Shi Xiaobao's expression was cold and sinister. "Shi Xiaobao, I've seen your strength long ago, but I have yet to exchange blows with you. Today, you and I will have a decisive battle. Let's see who will have the last laugh." Lin Yushuan stepped forward, boasting shamelessly. A youth behind Shi Xiaobao walked out. He looked even younger than Lin Yushuan, around 20 years of age. His face was as white as powder, and he was waving a fan. "Whether I'm boasting shamelessly or not, you'll know soon enough. Shi Xiaobao, do you dare to fight me? If not, then leave this place immediately." Lin Yushuan took out his weapon, which was a halberd. Right now, the two sides were evenly matched, and both were experts. Whoever backed down first would not only lose face, but also their pride. Experts paid great attention to their pride. Only when facing an undefeatable opponent would they put it away. However, they naturally wouldn't think that their opponent was an undefeatable opponent. How could they back down, not even half a step? A great battle was about to begin. "You're not qualified to fight me. Zhao Sherwin, you go fight him," Shi Xiaobao said to the pale-faced youth waving his fan. "That's for the best." The pale-faced youth walked out, standing in the center of the battlefield. He slightly raised his head, arrogantly looking at Lin Yushuan. "Then let's fight." Lin Yushuan's face was ashen. The radiance in his eyes seemed to have materialized and shot out, as if wanting to pierce through his opponent. Courting death. The pale-faced youth suddenly counterattacked. "Let's exchange blows." This wasn't a challenge, but a battle for wealth. How could he just sit and watch the winner be decided? Coincidentally, the middle-aged woman on Yi Chen's side and Shi Xiaobao's side walked out at the same time, slowly approaching each other. When they were about 100 meters away, their bodies instantly turned illusory, as if trying to confuse their opponent. However, when both of them did this, their killing intent became even more awe-inspiring. Shi Xiaobao's golden hair fluttered as he soared into the sky. Golden demonic energy burst out from his body and swept through the entire palace, causing many people's blood and qi to boil, inwardly aghast. This was a young super expert, as well as the most arrogant young master of the Golden Lion clan. He wouldn't allow others to defy him, and now, he was about to take action. "Leave it to me." As the captain of Yi Chen's side, Jin Wanshuang stepped out without hesitation. With each step, the metallic luster on the surface of his body increased by a bit. After 10 steps, his entire body seemed to have turned into a metallic man, emitting a dazzling luster. "You guys go and kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive." Shi Xiaobao's voice rumbled as he charged at Jin Wanshuang. Boom! The battlefield boiled. Shi Xiaobao's words were akin to igniting a barrel of gunpowder. Everyone's expression turned sinister, revealing their killing intent. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.